Hello, it's Tuppence. This is going to be a really quick video as I'm still pretty poorly. I got this Moon mobile from Temu and it comes with everything you need to create the mobile, but this is not actually why I bought it. I bought it for these, all the little dangly bits that you get underneath. I think this has got a really nice range of shapes and they're pretty good sizes too. So I'm going to use this today with some UV resin, and I'm going to create something that is possibly for Valentine's using the moon. And there's another shape in here which I think would make really decent earrings. So let me go get gloves on and I'll show you what I'm going to do. Most of the shapes have two hole makers in them because they're going to hang mid-string. You can hang something from them, but that's okay. It doesn't mean you can't use them, but some of them only have the one, and I think these would be perfect for earrings, especially the shape on the end. So that's what I'm going to do with that one. And I'm going to be using some UV resin from Speed. I've got craft UV resin for this. You could certainly do it with epoxy, just take a little bit longer. So I'm going to lay down a very thin layer in the bottom of this. It is a fairly thick shape and I'm not going to want it to be too thick for an earring. I'm going to spread that out, and to do that I'm going to use this brush. I spread that across the bottom, do my best to get rid of any bubbles. I still haven't got hold of a long neck lighter at the moment, and my torch has no butane in it, so I can't use that to pop any bubbles. So I'm going to make sure I do my best to get rid of it using the brush. There's a couple of bubbles I'm just chasing out at the moment. Alright, I've got that nice and clear. Now I'm going to add some of this chunky glitter. It's meant from nail art, and I also got this from Temu. It's a kind of silvery blue colour. So I'm just going to grab a little spoon and I'm going to pop that down the bottom in that curve. Just tap that off there. Might add a little bit more. There's ultrafine glitter and then slightly larger chunky hex pieces. Right, now that I've got that down the bottom, it is starting to spread across the surface, especially the fine bits. So I'm just going to give it a helping hand and move some of the larger pieces into position. I don't want it spread all the way up. I want most of it down the bottom and then sort of graduating up the piece as it goes. So I want to make sure that everything is covered in the resin, or at least making contact with the resin. Otherwise, when I take it out of the mould, the glitter's just going to fall off. But I don't want it necessarily to all sink down to the bottom. So I'll just make that nice and flat. That looks pretty good. Alright, I'm going to pop this underneath my dual-sided lamp for 3 minutes. Okay, that is cured now, and I've still only got that one layer of resin in there, but I'm going to take this out of the mould. So I've filled it to slightly less than half of the depth of the mould. There we go. All of the glitter is stuck, which is great, but I'm going to seal that in with a nice dome coat. I want to round the back, especially if this is going to be earrings. You don't want anything sharp that is going to be hanging near your neck. So I'm going to put a nice blob of resin on top of there, and again I'm going to use the brush and spread that out right to the edges. I like to use a brush because I find I have a little bit more control and I don't tend to get it over the outside. Once I've done that, I'm going to pop this under the lamp and cure it for 3 minutes. And here it is. I think that's really nice. Now I've only done one, so I could just use this as a pendant. It's a decent size, but if I do another one, it would make a great pair of earrings. Now I'm going to do the moon. That's got 2 hole makers in it, but I'm going to show you how I'll deal with that in a minute. It's pretty large. I don't think you can make that into earrings, maybe not even a pendant, but it would make a great magnet or a key ring, or just a token that somebody can hang up. So again, I'm going to use the brush, try and get rid of any bubbles, just spread this around the surface. The brush can be cleaned afterwards just by rinsing it with a little bit of isopropyl alcohol and wiping it off on a paper towel. That way I can use this again and again. And now that I'm doing this moon, above it is a really fun shape, which I'm presuming they want to be a sun or something. But to me, it looks kind of like a saw blade, so I think that would be fantastic. Stick a cog in the middle of it, and you could maybe use that to make something for Father's Day. just spitballing here really. Alright, bubbles out. In a nod to Valentine's Day, I've got some of these kind of sequin hearts. They're in the colour Candy Floss, so I'm going to sprinkle those in. It's either a chunky glitter or a sequin, whichever you want to call it. And again, in the same way that I did with that other glitter, I'm going to arrange these, move them around, and try and space them out a little bit. I'm not going to worry if they're upside down, but I would like them to be flat to the surface, either the front or the back, so that you can see that it is a heart. I don't want them laying side on. And once I've got these nicely spaced, I'm going to let that settle for a few minutes, and then I'm going to pop that underneath my UV lamp and I'll cure that for 3 minutes. It's ready to demould. The mould is nice and translucent, so it cures really well, especially with a dual-sided lamp. And now I've got my moon. Now I don't want that second hole. I'm going to keep one of them. So I need to cover that up so that I can fill it up. And I'm going to use a bit of Bezel tape. So I'm just going to cut a strip enough to go over that hole. I'm going to flip it over to the bottom of the mould is on the top, because that's nice and flat. And then I'll fix that tape over it. Now I just need to put a blob of clear resin on top of that. I'm going to use a small blob. If you want to give it a dome coat or whatever, that's fine, you can, and this would be ideal time to do it. But I'm going to add different colour on top. So first I'm just going to use my brush, make sure that there are no bubbles stuck in there, poke that down and fill it up. And as I'm doing so, it should disappear. So I just need a little bit more resin. I think I need a new bottle. Come on, out you come. Alright, there's a good blob. And poke that down in the hole so that it all fills up, and then that will disappear and I can spread this out over the surface. I'm going to be adding some more layers, but they'll be coloured layers. So there we are. I think you can see that's disappeared now. Right, I'm going to spread that out. And yes, it would be much easier to just put one solid coat on the back here, but like I say, it doesn't matter because I am going to be adding a colour on here. If you wanted it clear, then definitely do a whole new layer. But I just need to spread that out. And again, I need to pop that under the lamp and cure that. Now I can take off that piece of bezel tape. And there we go. That is now filled up. And by the time I add my other layers on here, you're never going to know that there was 2 holes in there. Now I'm going to add a little bit of colour onto the back. I'm using this Dazzling Diamonds white mica with some glitter in it. That's going to hopefully make the hearts pop out on the front. So I'm going to put a little bit of UV resin in my cup. And then I need to try and restrain myself and only put a little bit in. I always use so much of this stuff because it is so pretty. So a little bit in the spoon. Okay, that I think will be enough. There's only a very tiny amount of resin in there. And then I need to give this a good mix and make sure I break up all that powder and get it all mixed in. And it's going to be kind of milky but slightly translucent. I do want to make sure that the light is still able to penetrate so that it cures the UV resin. So that's looking pretty. Some of that glitter is floating on the surface, but that looks pretty good. So now I'm going to spread that onto the back. And again, pull that out towards the sides. So using the stick for a minute, but I am going to transfer back to my brush because I much prefer that. I'm going to speed this up, paint that out to the sides, and then I need to put this underneath the UV lamp to cure. And yes, I was careless, I wasn't watching what I was doing, and I covered up the hole. It's going to take me a few seconds to realise that that's what I've done. There we go. I'm going to try and pull some of that UV resin out of the hole with the brush, and then I need to pick this up and clean it off, otherwise it will run down onto the front. Alright, underneath the lamp. I'm going to add another layer, but I want it to be a little bit more solid, so I'm putting in some of this Aurora powder. It's going to help make it a little bit more opaque. So I'll mix that in, and again I'm going to layer that up and spread it on the back. So I'll just drop the resin on, and you can see that's going to give me a nice solid background. Take my brush again and I can spread that out to the sides, only this time I'm going to be a lot more careful. I'm going to go around that hole first. And once I've got this all covered, I'll pop this underneath the lamp, and that's going to get another 3 minutes. So this is building up the layers and it's building up the cure time as well. So now I have my base, it's nice and sparkly. I want to put a sticker on it. I've printed my own using a laser printer, and I've used a clear sticker vinyl. So I'm just going to cut out the text that I want to put on, and obviously I've filled the sheet with lots of cute images. You may see them in future projects. Alright, I'm going to cut around the edge. Now I've sized this to fit when I printed this out, or when I created this. I took a template of that heart, so it should fit on there. I just need to make sure that I get it pretty close. Alright, looks like I need to trim a little bit more off. So I'm going to go really close to the edge and cut off that excess paper. Let's try that. That looks much better. Yeah, I think that'll be fine. I will trim off anything that might be overhanging. Now comes the fun bit. Trying to separate this, which is never easy at the best of times and almost impossible in gloves. So give me a minute. I think I've got it. Hallelujah, at last. That took a while. Right, let me position this in place. I've still got the paper on the bottom so that it is not stuck while I maneuver it, and then I can push that down once I'm sure I've got it in place. And I'm going to start to gently press that down, because I could scratch off that laser print using my gloves. So I'm making sure to press it down in place, rolling out any air. That looks pretty good. So I've got a few bubbles just along this side, so I'm going to use the paper to smooth that out so that I don't scratch that text off. And that is very good. Make sure that's all nice and flat. I've got a tiny bit just overhanging on that edge, so I just need to snip that with a pair of scissors. Got it. Okay. And now I'm ready to give this a top coat and seal that in. It would actually be pretty durable like that, but it looks much better if it's sealed in, and I can give this a bit of a dome coat. So let me bring my plate on. That way I can pick it up and put it underneath the lamp. I'll zoom in so you can see what I'm doing. And then I'm going to repeat the process. I give it a dome coat of clear UV resin just to seal that in. And as I do so, you can see that it kind of magnifies the words. It looks so pretty. I've spread it across the surface again using the brush, making sure not to fill in the hole. And as I do so, you can see that the edges of that sticker paper disappear, so that all that is visible are the words. Just going to go around the outside, making sure that it's nice and round, I don't have any gaps, and then I'll pop this underneath the UV lamp and cure it for the final time. So it's done, and I think this would make a great magnet, but I'm going to turn it into a keyring. I'm going to try and get that finding in. And it looks like the hole is a little too far away from the edge for me to be able to pass that through and do that up. So I need to quickly make an amendment to that. I could put a large jump ring in there, but I'm just going to use my electric drill. And I'm going to extend the hole by pushing against the side and removing some of that resin, moving the hole a little closer to the edge and making it slightly bigger. Then I can try this again, see if it will fit, and it does. There we go. So I think these are really cute shapes. I like them, and yeah, this would make a great magnet as well. I also made a second one of these so that I now have a pair of earrings, and I really love that shape. I think it makes a great pendant or earrings. Let me know what you think. So I really hope that you've liked this video. If you have, please give me a thumbs up, comment, share, please subscribe if you will, and come back and see what I'm going to make next time. Thank you so much for watching. Take care. Bye.